Hunt with passion. Never stop casting. Chase the dream. Welcome to Season 7 of Musky Mastery Outdoors, brought to you by Joe Bucher Outdoors, #1 in big game fish products. Recon Boats, made by craftsmen, built for fishermen, and by Great Lakes Potato Chips. Snack happy, every chip, every bag. Hey everybody, what's up, and welcome back to another Musky video here on the Musky Mastery YouTube channel. Welcome back, folks, to, as you can see, we are back. The Whiteboard series, the vlog series is back. I know many of you have talked about this in the comments of other videos, and thank you for urging me to bring it back. Well, it's back. We got a brand new show for you. And if you're new to the Musky Mastery family and channel here, welcome. My name is Chaz Martin. I will introduce myself a little bit more in a minute, but just welcome to the channel, guys. At least here in the North Woods, it's it's ice fishing season. It's time for reflection. It's time to think about the past season, and I thought no better time now than to bring back the Whiteboard series, the vlog series, and I've got a whole new program for you. Okay, it is called Mastering Muskies from Beginner to Expert. Now, there are many days, believe me, that I feel like a beginner. And there are, of course, some days, like we all have, where I feel like an expert. Wherever you are in your journey of becoming a seasoned musky angler, okay, which is the goal at the end of this program, which will span from here in the middle of December to roughly sometime at the end of March. We're going to be running this program. Of course, I'm going to be sprinkling in some regular Musky Mastery fishing videos, but we're going to have at least twice a month is my goal. Maybe more, maybe less, depending on the comments and what you folks want. Okay, this is a living, breathing program. We're going to be having about 2 of these episodes a week. I still try to stick to about 1 a week, so there's like 4 episodes a month. But that's the whole goal, that when you're done with this program, toward the beginning of your opener, whether that's down south or in the Midwest or even in further north in Wisconsin or Minnesota and Canada, that you're going to go from, feeling comfortable with where you are in the musky fishing game to hopefully feeling like an expert by the time our musky season begins again in 2025. And you're going to find some tactics, some real ideas and strategies that you can implement on your own bodies of water to hopefully find more success. So with that said, maybe I'll just introduce myself for those of you. Oh, and by the way, I should mention this before I even do introductions. I think some of you might be excited about this. This whole whiteboarding series is now going to be available on my podcast platform, or well, there's various platforms, Spotify and Apple and whatnot, but it's going to be available on our podcast, Musky Therapy. So that way, if you are driving in the car, plane, train, automobile, whatever it is, bus ride, long walk, you're on the treadmill, you'll be able to tune in and get the most out of this program. You guys know I'm a talker, of course, so these Whiteboard series can tend to go a little on the longer side. But let me just introduce myself again. Like I said, my name's Chaz. The 2025 season, this is an incredible number that I'm going to throw at you. I can't even believe this. It will be my 19th season as a musky guide. Actually, I should just say fishing guide, because I've done a lot of multi-species guiding over the years in the great state of Wisconsin. 19 years, so I've completed my 18th year of guiding. Shout out and thank you to all my customers over the years, especially my longtime customers that have been through thick and thin with me. We have had an absolute blast, and so yeah. Of course, you're watching Season 7 of the Musky Mastery YouTube show. We are in the process of still filming Season 8, so it's kind of incredible to tell you that we've actually been filming Musky Mastery for now 8 years, which is pretty incredible. And really, the Musky Mastery YouTube show, in many ways, although I probably always wanted to do this as a child, it's been a dream of mine, but since I was a child, many of you know that I have been a humongous fan of a guy that you all know, Joe Bucher, who's a Hall of Fame angler, and life works in mysterious ways. Joe and I ended up becoming great friends, and I was very heavily involved in filming the Fishing with Joe Bucher television show from about 2013 to 2020. Now, Joe and I are still filming together, and in fact, we'll have some exciting updates for you about potential Canada trips together to come in the near future. Knock on wood, we're excited to maybe start things back up and get filming together again. But that's really, just in a nutshell, who I am. I also should mention that I'm an educator. And this is why I love to do this kind of stuff. I'm a high school science teacher. I teach primarily chemistry, but I've taught biology, physics, forensics, astronomy. I've taught ecology. I mean, I've taught a lot of different courses. And I'm a big believer in education. So any of you that have stepped foot on my boat for guiding, or of course, if you've watched my videos, you probably enjoy some of that education that comes with the channel. Of course, I hope that you enjoy the fish catching and some of the humor, but you're really here to learn. I'm here to learn too, and I hope that you learn in this new program, Mastering Muskies, okay? So, let's kick things off. I've kind of introduced the idea here, and episode 1 is gonna be Welcome to the World of Muskies. Now, for many of you watching, this is going to be a review, so please be patient with me, but for those of you who are getting into the sport, and everybody here that's listening that is an expert, or that you've got experience, hey, we have got to produce videos and educate those who are new to our sport. Okay, this is a really important part, and you know it when it comes to handling muskies and cutting hooks and all the release stuff that everybody gripes about on social media. This is important, so stick with me here if you know some of this stuff, but we're just gonna introduce you to musky fishing, okay? And really, we can talk about this idea of this, and everybody here knows this. Okay, we'll put like a smiley face maybe, or whatever. It's that like, really 10,000 casts? Why does a muskie take 10,000 casts to catch? Now, in Vilas and Oneida County in northern Wisconsin, I believe our number, and I'd have to fact check this with my fisheries biologist friends, but I think it averages about 8,000 casts. And by the way, I should actually, before we get into 10,000 casts and what we're even doing here with muskies, episode 1 here, what are we doing? Well, it's Welcome to the World of Muskies. I mentioned that, but it's also going to be called Tools of the Trade. So we're going to go over a couple basic things here today that just to get you acclimated, the holiday season's coming up. Maybe it's time to ask Santa, put a list together for a few of these things. We're going to talk about basic lures. We're going to expand on this as we go. I also should mention, as we work our way toward March, this whole series is scaffolded. By that, I mean that we're going to start very basic, and as we work our way into January and February and March, we're going to get more specific, and I'm also going to try to do this as a living program. I mentioned that, but again, we're going to incorporate your questions into this program. But again, today is we're going to talk about tools of the trade. What do you need, and why would you want to musky fish? Well, some of you might again say, well, you want to musky fish because you like to torture yourself. Hey, you like to go out there and spend a lot of money on equipment and gas and rods and reels and lures, and some of you want to get away from your partners or family. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Nobody, that doesn't exist, right? My jokes are great. But muskies, why do we hunt muskies? Well, they're elusive. Hunting muskies is obviously not like fishing for bluegills, right? I mean, we've all grown up on bluegills. Bluegills are the fish that always bite no matter how bad of a day you're having, which is amazing, right? And I'll be the first to admit, maybe, I love fishing for bluegills too. But muskies are unique. Muskies, fishing for muskies, or again, I'd rather say hunting for muskies, is more attuned to, it's chasing a monster. It's chasing a beast. It's chasing something that's mean. It's scary. This is an animal that doesn't really follow the rules that sometimes we think other species follow. Now, that's not all true, of course, but muskies just have a different demeanor. We call them the fish of 10,000 casts because at one point in time, although it's still fairly close to this number, it still takes the average angler, at least I'll speak from my knowledge base in northern Wisconsin, close to 8,000 casts to catch a legal size muskie. Now, legal size has been changing. You know, when I started muskie fishing in the 90s, the legal size in the state of Wisconsin was 34 inches. Now in most of our waters, it's been bumped up to 40, which is fantastic. And many of our lakes now have 50-inch size limits on them, which is fantastic. Some lakes still even have a 28, depending on their population density, okay? But muskies are tough to catch, and part of the reason we love them is that elusiveness. You know, it's like it's a feat, and when you smell that slime and you get that muskie in the net, you know you've accomplished something big. And really, as we look at this educational piece here, we don't need to talk a ton about this in this particular show, although some of you would love to geek out on this. But why do we call them the fish of 10,000 casts again? And why would you be interested in catching them? Well, they're an apex predator, okay? Muskies are at the top of the food chain, okay? So apex means like they're at the top of the food chain, okay? And what that also brings to it is, you know, low population density. So comparatively speaking to other species like northern pike or bass or walleyes, there are just less muskies per acre of water that we are fishing on. So from that perspective alone, muskies are tough. They are at the top of the food chain. They require more energy. And if you know anything about, you know, grizzly bears or mountain lions or, you know, you name it, are big furry mammals that are at the top of the food chain, it's the same idea. But muskies, like all of these tertiary predators, there's a fun science word to throw at you, they're unique, like all these creatures. And muskies, of course, have a mood. That's right, muskie mood is very interesting. Why are muskies, again, why are they so tough to catch? Well, some of that is, like we said, because they just, in general, there's less of them. So it takes more angling time, more angling hours to run into one. And then when you even find one, is it even in a good mood to eat? You know, the late and great Tom Gelb, I believe, I'd have to go back into his old book, Musky Strategy, which I probably need to pick up this winter. I think he once said that muskies, at least based on his calculations, had a positive feeding mood only 8% of 24-hour period, which could be very accurate, actually. But muskies are not chomping all the time. In fact, those days are few and far between. But muskie mood, you know, muskies, for whatever it is, they probably have a brain the size of a pea, but so they're not necessarily smart creatures per se, but they are evolutionary monsters. And by that I mean these fish are so closely tied with their environment that's part of, you know, in large part what makes them tough to catch, okay? They're tied to the barometric pressure changes, light changes, heat changes, time of the season, of course. They are tied to the moon. And of course, part of this musky mood, you know, muskies are, of course, if you're just getting into the sport of muskies, you know that muskies are known for doing this, okay? They follow your lures in all the time. You know, of course, other species follow your lures in, bass and pike and walleyes. Of course, we've caught big 30-inch walleyes in the figure eight too. We'll talk about the figure eight if you don't know what that is. But muskies follow, and they just have this unique mood that can drive you nuts and also intrigue you at the same time. So again, we'll kind of start to wrap this idea up. But yes, muskies are tough to catch. They are the apex predator, and they have a weird mood. Now, part of this mood, by the way, and this is interesting, and I am not, believe me, I am a big fan of electronics and new technology, believe me. I mean, you've watched on my channel, it's fantastic. But part of that mood, though, you know, and especially post-pandemic, okay, part of that mood comes with pressure, okay? This is boating pressure, fishing pressure, all these types of things. This comes with, you know, angling pressure, and this comes with angling pressure. You've got you know, electronics, the pinging of different sonars, your forward-facing, your 360 imaging, your side imaging. You know, you've got these high-speed 2D sonars. You've got powerful engines. I mean, you've got a lot of noise in the water, and you've got more of it now than ever before. So why even fish one? Well, we also live in, I guess I'm going to argue, the golden era of musky fishing, which right now, I think we have over 95% catch and release for the sport of musky fishing, and anglers every single year are becoming better at releasing muskies and doing a better job. And of course, you muskie police out there, we thank you for your service. A little joke, but of course, you know, if someone dares post, and I don't, of course, condone any of this, but kind of funny sometimes if somebody posts a musky photo on some of the social platforms and, you know, they didn't know what they were doing, you're never going to do that again. But again, you know, jokes aside, we live in one of the best times to fish for muskies because most, if not all of them, go back. And when they go back, they're going back with a really, really good chance of survival, okay? So, you know, that's just it. Muskies are a labor of love, and, you know, why do I love muskies? Just to, again, if you're listening to this on a podcast, you're probably loving this, but hopefully you're loving it no matter what you're watching it on. But for me, you know, somebody asked me recently, why do I love to chase muskies? And I think that, you know, looking back, as a kid, I remember fishing with my grandpa Jim, my great uncle Tommy, my dad Charlie, Papa Charlie, and I remember one time, I have a video memory, and I remember being in a rowboat on a lake fishing for bass, and we'd always throw a bobber out with a big chub on it, a big sucker, and my great uncle Tommy loved that. We'd always throw one out there. And I remember one time this bobber went down. And again, I was really a kid. I must have been, 6, 7 years old. But I remember it like it was yesterday. The bobber goes down. We set the hook, probably with some old monofilament and a spinning rod setup. An old Shakespeare, probably 5'5" rod. And that fish went airborne. I had never seen anything like it in my life. Broke the line, and it scared the living crap out of me. And ever since then, something in the back of my mind was, what was that and how can I see that again? And of course, as the years go on, you have musky encounters and follows. And I remember as a kid being in my 14-foot Alumacraft, which I don't know if it's shown up on the channel before or not, might have. I remember a muskie following in my walk the dog topwater, towards sunset. And I remember the waves from the wake of that muskie hitting the boat, and it was rocking the boat. It was rocking the boat, and the scene from Jaws is going through my head. We're gonna need a bigger boat. That kind of stuff, coupled with catching my first muskie in 1999, August 10th, 1999 at 10:30 a.m. on a baby depth raider, okay? Here we've got a new color hot perch. We're going to talk about colors and lures here in a little bit, but that was it. Everything was downhill from there, and that moment in life that changed me as a person. So that's just a little bit of. And the other thing I would say is this: even as an adult now, I love producing content for you. I love it's a real challenge to take a fish that's tough to catch them, and then kind of document that whole hunt for you and help you hopefully learn from some of my experiences. So that's really, it's part of what I love. And the other thing that's really cool about this is, when you put the trolling motor down, or whatever it is, you put a lure in the water, anytime you wet a line, I truly don't think that any of us really know what's in store for us. In the sport of musky fishing, a lot of folks now, of course we use 80-pound tests. We'll talk about line in a little bit here, but we use heavy lines because of the abuse that our lures go through and the line goes through, but also because this one little part of our brain knows this, that on any given cast, you could run into the largest muskie that has ever swam, ever. What is that, weight-wise? 70, 80 pounds, who knows? But when you're chasing muskies, it's kind of a little something different. You're kind of gearing up for always the possibility that you could be hooking into something scary. And that, to me, drives me on a daily basis, among other things, but it's really cool. Okay, so let's talk about some essential gear. We've talked about the fish of 10,000 casts. Hopefully you're getting kind of fired up. Let's talk about essential gear. Now, As the program continues on this winter, we're going to dial in further and further and further. So this is our introductory episode here, but let's talk about rods, okay? I'm going to highlight what I think for you, okay? And I want to make this clear, by the way, before we even go into this. There's a lot of, I'm prefacing a lot of things on this first show because I want to make sure you feel comfortable with what we're doing here, okay? As I showcase different, as I showcase different lures to you and I talk about different rods and electronics, look, I want to be very clear that I caught my first muskie with no net, by the way. So this is a long time ago. No net, no trolling motor. By the way, I used oars. Okay, I positioned the boat with oars. I had no locator. I had no fish finder. I had one musky rod. Of course, I had a box full of lures, but I probably at that point in my life I only had probably 5 or 6 musky lures. So point being is I'm going to talk to you guys about some things here, but you have to keep in mind, to do what the budget allows for, okay? You don't need everything. In fact, could you get away with 5 lures and 1 rod and some great release tools? Yes, you can. But of course, you're here to learn, so let's dive in. Okay, if you're gonna have 3 rods, okay? 3 musky rods that I think are essential, okay? You've got to have what I'm going to call your bucktail topwater rod, okay? Your bucktail topwater rod is going to be a long rod, okay? I am a big fan of a 9-foot rod, okay? And I really like the power on it, okay? So a 9-foot rod, and I like a power of medium heavy, okay? Now again, I got a lot of musky rods. Don't ask my wife how many are in the gear room, and I won't get rid of them, so don't ask me to sell them to you. I collect them. But a medium heavy power, fast action. The medium heavy, essentially here, okay, if this is your, let's just call this the old, here's your musky rod, okay. Medium heavy means that the bend of that rod, okay, if that's the lead guide, okay, the medium heavy power means you're going to have more of that bend in the middle, the mid section of that rod, okay. You're going to have it's going to be stiff here in the base, and it's really you're going to find that stiffness here right in the middle section of that rod. The fast action refers to how quickly this tip snaps back into place, and I think for most applications you're going to find that a fast action rod is really important. And medium heavy, the reason I'm picking medium heavy and 9-foot, this is going to be our I'm just going to call it our I think even St. Croix, we call this the top and tail, okay? The top and tail rod, and by the way, if you're looking for, I fish with a lot of different rods, but the one that you see on my channel quite a bit is called the LEM90MHF, okay? That is Legend Elite Musky. And of course, this is their top of the line musky rod, but if you do this as much as I do, you're going to invest in all the fanciest things. But 9-foot medium heavy action and medium heavy power, fast action. Let me just make sure. I hope I didn't say that wrong. This is medium heavy power again. So the power section means you're bending here in the mid section of that rod. It allows you some good flexibility for throwing lures. As small as the 700 Booker tail. Again, this is a brand new color out for 2024, 2025. This is black and glow orange. So you're going to be able to throw, small to mid-size blades. You're going to be able to throw your basic, Colorado blade, single hook spinner baits like this Slot Master here. This is a, Elvis Slot Master, little things like that. And of course, you can throw amongst many things. Woo! Here's a Psycho Frog top raider here, okay? So you're going to be able to throw a lot of your mid-sized lures and even smaller, on the 9-foot. Can you get away with throwing a JB Rattler? Yeah, here's a little brand new color. This is Sunset in the JB Rattler pattern, in the JB Rattler lure lineup here. Can you throw this kind of stuff on the Legend Elite 9-foot? Yes, you can. In fact, if you only could buy one lure, that's such a lie, right? If you could only buy one rod, it would probably be this rod. Sorry, St. Croix, for spoiling it, but this rod does so much. I mean, I throw everything again, even with this 9-footer. I will throw my little baby depth raiders, okay? I'll throw my 700 Booker tails, like you name it. I mean, I throw a lot with this rod, so it's absolutely fantastic for a lot of applications. And we'll just talk real quick, why would you want this rod for, let's just say, bucktail fishing? You know, the top water, the bucktail side of things. Well, the reason you're gonna want this rod is because it's got the length. The figure eight gets easier, especially for us old farts like myself now. Maybe I won't call myself old just yet, but the figure eight becomes a lot easier when you have added length to your rod, okay? So the 9-foot is kind of where it's at for that sort of thing, okay? So that's 9-foot, medium power, medium heavy power, fast. Okay, let's look at the second rod in this lineup. Okay, I'm gonna argue that you need a jerkbait rod. Okay, now this rod can do a lot of different things. The rod that I use, this is a 7-foot 6-inch. It is a heavy power. I'm actually trying to remember, geez, if it's an extra, no, it's a heavy power, 7.6 heavy power fast, okay? And this is the, yeah, it's not an extra heavy power. It's just a heavy power. And this is the LEM, okay, the one that I use is the Legend Elite Musky. It's an LEM 7.6 HF, heavy power, fast action, okay? And why would you use a 7.6 with your 9-footer? Well, okay, this is when you're starting to work jerk baits, but not just any type of jerk bait, okay? When you're working big jerk baits like a glider. So this is actually one of JBO's new walking raiders, by the way. And by the way, let me introduce this color for those of you that are interested in collecting colors. I do want to show you this because this is kind of cool. JBO has come out. Let me make sure you guys can see that. This is actually a really cool new color here on the walking raider. And they've got similar colors in the Glide Raider, which you've seen on the show. But I'll show you this real quick. This is a new color here. It's called Canvasback Duck. It's a whole new series if you're into collecting lures, like I am. I mean, who's not? There's a whole new series here by JBO that's kind of highlighting different duck patterns, some really cool paint patterns on the market here for the 2025 lure series. So we'll talk about that. But anyway, the 7.6 heavy power fast, okay? And I did get that right. Now that I'm saying it, at first it looked weird when I wrote it out. You need something with, okay, I'm gonna do my very, I'm gonna put this down so I don't hook myself here. If this is the base of your rod here, okay? Now the heavy power rod is gonna, it's gonna have more of that power, more of that beef toward the base of it, okay? So you're gonna have more of that bend in the base. It's a much stronger rod. And again, why would you need this? Well, when you're working heavier lures like the Glide Raider and the Walking Raider, and you need a stiff rod that's not gonna bend a lot in the tip, right? You're gonna have more of that bend. You know, this schematic here doesn't really do it justice, but the heavy power is really important because you need the bend more in the lower, it's left of center, more closer to the cork and the handle, okay, the reel seat. You need a rod that's not gonna have as much flex in it because you need more aggressive, less rod tip movement, pulling power to pull these lures and manipulate them in different ways, okay? So when you wanna produce that zigzag, walk the dog style, or when you want to get that zigzag subsurface retrieve, you need a rod that's not going to bend like a medium heavy. The other thing too is you throw these heavier, larger lures out there, you're going to find that they just throw better on a heavy power rod, okay? They're not going to flex as much. If you try to throw real heavy lures on a medium heavy, you've probably tried this before, it's not really super easy to do. So the heavy power and of course fast action is important because you want that tip to snap right back when you're manipulating that lure, okay? I'm just gonna leave it at that for the 7.6, but I throw glide baits a lot. So a 7.6 is like essential. The 9 foot is actually not going to cut it for something like a glide rater or a walk-in rater, because as you're pushing that rod tip down and you keep pumping it and driving it, you know, again, with a little wiggle room on the type of boat you got, the lower you sit to the water, the harder this gets. You need a shorter rod for this kind of application, okay? So the 7.6 heavy power fast is really important there, okay? And lastly, I'm just going to introduce like the third rod, and this is so important. I wouldn't be caught without this rod on the water. This is going to be some sort of more of a finesse rod, okay? My finesse rod is a 7'10" medium power fast, okay? And this rod is known as, so the one that I fish with the most, okay, and I believe actually St. Croix discontinued this, okay? It is called the Legend Musky Downsizer. It was a part of the old Downsizer series, which was a spin-off of the Legend Tournament series, but with a little bit more functionality for finesse approaches. It's a 7'10" medium power fast. Now this is probably the lightest rod that I own. Why do I use this rod? Well, again, one of my all-time standbys on the Musky Mastery YouTube show is, of course, this lure right here. This is the baby shallowrator, okay? This is a small minnow bait. This lure requires like very subtle rod movements. Now, can you do this with a 9 foot medium heavy? Yes, you can. Is that manipulation, is that lure manipulation easier to do over a long period of time with a shorter rod, a 7'10" medium power fast? Absolutely. A lighter rod for smaller lures, of course. This is also a new color. Part of the cool thing about our show here is that I get to show you new colors. This is Wonder Bread. So I hope I got to work on my lighting here in the new vlog studio, but that's Wonder Bread. It's a new color out. You should check it out. You may have seen it on the channel. But when you're fishing these small jerk baits, these little minnow baits, you need a rod that is going to be able to allow you essentially the wrist movements over time, okay? You need the wrist movement to generate that slack in the line, to get those pops, and of course, you know that I love to catch them on the paws, okay? A smaller rod like this allows you to do two things. Manipulate the lure, like I've talked about, I think, like 100 times now, but also to fish that style where you're constantly working the lure, actually both of these, where you're constantly working lures very aggressively and very much, wrist heavy. You're constantly working that wrist and your forearm. You want something that's lighter. You can do this with a 9 footer to a certain extent, but moving that length of rod, it's a long rod and it takes a lot out of you. So you need to kind of be careful on that. So these are my rods. By the way, I'm just gonna Google this. LEM. This is driving me nuts. I'm having one of those moments, senior moment. LEM 7.6 heavy fast St. Croix. I am right now, and it's extra heavy. So I wanted to do this because I knew this looked funny to me. It is the extra heavy. Sorry. So this is. Let me just stand corrected here. Whoops. Those of you who are watching, you're like, Martin, you don't even know what you're throwing anymore. It's the extra heavy fast. Duh. So I stand corrected, by the way. I knew there was something wrong. It's been bugging me the entire time I've been doing this show. But bottom line here, you want to have 3 different rod types, okay? Minimally. Could you get away with one? And if you did get away with one, what would it be? Your top and tail. You've also got, again, I'm going to just, this is your LEM 7.6 XHF. You've seen this on the show a ton. I don't know why I thought it was heavy. It's an extra heavy rod. It's really stiff. And then you've got your medium power, 710 for all that wrist movement. So here are your 3 basic rods. Okay. Now, let's talk about musky line. Okay, let's talk about the musky line, and I might change up my color here. Let's see here. So, fishing line. There we go. So, I am just going to tell you, of course, you know that one of the great companies, of course, my sponsors, Joe Bucher Outdoors, Recon Boats, and Great Lakes Potato Chips, they're bringing this content to you. So first of all, that's just a little shout out to my sponsors. But as far as the tackle's concerned, I am a big fan of JBO's Beast Braid. Beast Braid. Now there are a lot of great high quality fishing lines out there, okay? As the technology has improved, so have our rods, reels, and of course our line. We're not getting crazy here, so I'm just gonna say 80-pound test is what I personally use almost 90-some% of the time. There are certain applications I'll use 65-pound Beast Braid. There are certain applications I will use 100-pound test. The 80-pound test has an 18-pound test diameter. I may have already said that, but this is a good all-around line. I find that with regard to trolling applications and again, thinking about, just sensitivity when it comes to buoyancy issues on a small minnow bait like the Baby Shallow Raider, 80-pound test gets the job done for me. So we will kind of leave it at that. Why would you use 80-pound test though? If you're just getting into musky fishing, some of you may be tempted, oh, I like the fight. I want to fish with 40-pound test or 50-pound test. Don't do it. Okay, I'm sorry to tell you this. First of all, you're going to bust a line on a big fish. And second of all, when you're fishing these lures, let's just take a lure like the Slopmaster here. When you're fishing this lure around nasty cover and all sorts of debris and logs and rocks, you're running your line around all sorts of hazards, okay? And you've got to have a line that can be durable enough to put up with this. Or when you get a big muskie that eats your top raider and it rolls around in the net, you don't want to be cutting 5 feet of line. Although you got to inspect your line, you don't want to be cutting that every single time, okay? So this is some essential gear as far as rods and line, and now let's talk about reels. Now again, I am not associated. By that I mean I do not have any sponsorships for reels, okay? But for reels, I will just tell you what I use. And again, you'll see this on my show if you want to go back. And by the way, I still feel bad about the LEM 7.6 XHF. It's the extra heavy 7.6. I feel like such a dummy, but it's okay. We'll let it slide. I love that rod so much. In fact, it was my hottest rod of the fall in October and November. So I'm like, how did I not remember that it was extra heavy? But I suppose it's been a long day teaching today. So cut me a little slack. Thanks, everybody. Okay, reels. I am a big fan of the Daiwa Alexa series, okay? And I essentially use 2 different sizes, okay? Daiwa Alexas come in the 400 size and the 300 size. Now, within the 400 size, now again, there are a lot of reels out there, but this is just this like generic idea that I think you're gonna wanna have probably 2 types of reel sizes, okay? The 400 size I'm using for my blades, my gliders, my larger applications. In the 400, when it comes to gliders, you have what we call the 400, I believe it's called the HP. So it's the 400, sorry, I'm all over the place tonight, aren't I? It's the 400 Power P, okay? I think they call it the PWR-P, and this is a 5.1 to 1 gear ratio, okay? For various blades and I just call it deep divers and top waters and things like that, I'm using the Alexa 400H or maybe sometimes HS, but the 400H, let's just back up here real quick. The 400H is my all-time favorite, and the H has I believe it is a 6.3 to 1 gear ratio, okay? So those are I call the 6.3 to 1 gear ratio. This is kind of the middle of the road gear ratio. This is something that I really like. It actually, a good friend of mine, Steve Herbeck, once said, what do you do when you want to get a lure to run faster and you've got a 6.3 to 1 gear ratio? Crank it faster. Okay, could you get a 7.1 to 1? Yes, of course, and I have those and they're fantastic. But these are the 2, as far as our blades, top waters, gliders, these are the 2 400s. And again, when it comes to that finesse fishing, so this is when I'm throwing that like Legend Musky downsizer, again, when I'm throwing smaller lures like the little baby shallow rater here. Even your 7-inch shallow rater here. Again, I'll show you another color as I'm getting the BOGO here, as I'm picking up different lures. And I love to throw, again, this 7-inch shallow rater here. Here, I hope you can see it with my lighting here. This is the Grape Flame pattern, a brand new pattern here of shallow rater, and this comes in the 5 and the 7-inch and the 9-inch. But you know, the 300 size reel is really, in my opinion, where it's at again for those smaller lures, so your minnow baits and smaller jerk baits. And you might even throw in, you know, again, something small like the JB Rattler. So the JB Rattler here is another idea. But for reels, again, I just wanted to throw the basics at you here for this introductory thing, tools of the trade, okay? Just, you've got some larger reels for, you know, more line capacity. They're more powerful. And actually, by the way, I should point out, these 400s, the reason these are even better is because you're throwing them on the 9-foot, the 9-foot rods. It's going to counterbalance that long length of rod. So what I'm saying is when your rod becomes longer, okay, it's a terrible rod here, but you're going to need a bigger reel as the rod, you know, as you get more length of rod out here. You're going to want to like counterbalance that with having some weight here toward the butt section of the rod. So the longer the rod, a lot of times I actually find a little bit bigger reel actually helps balance things out. And your smaller rods, your smaller reels are going to work there. So, okay, well, I think we talked about rods, reels, musky line, okay, and we've introduced some lures to you. Okay, let's see what else I've got on my agenda here for our introductory show. Okay. One thing, again, I just think maybe we should just hit on some brief stuff here before we talk about understanding musky behavior and habitat, just some basics here. First of all, I guess I do want to point out here that all of these lures, folks, JBO sends your top raters and your bucktails to you. Sharp, please get a good hook file. We're gonna cover this in another episode. We're gonna have a whole series, you know, part of the series will be on release and proper release, but just an FYI, sharpen your lures, okay? Sharpen your hooks, don't sharpen your lures, sharpen your hooks, and buy replacement hooks, buy replacement shrink wrap. You gotta have all this stuff if you're getting, even if you're at day one of musky fishing, please do this. It's important. Okay, but let's just talk real quick lures right now. I'm just going to put a list of lures, so because I do think we should just talk about lure basics, and we're going to take the JBO perspective here. I will talk a little bit maybe about soft plastics, but let's just talk about lures, okay? And of course, like I promised you, this is the basics version. We're going to get more complicated as we go here, okay? You need to have a topwater, okay? So everybody that's fishing, you know, you're getting into musky fishing, an essential lure category that you need, okay? And we're just going to cover a few of these to kick things off. You need a good mid-size top rater here. Again, you need the top water. You need the top water game, okay? Why throw a top water, okay? Just some basics here. Well, there's a lot of conditions out there, but the top water is tops, no pun intended. When you've got overcast conditions, you've got darker, just lighting a lot of times, the top water bite seems to pick up. It doesn't matter if there's a chop on the water or if there is, it's slack calm, it's dead calm. The top water has a way of pulling muskies. Now again, I should say this top water is not just for cloudy conditions. If you've musky fished enough, I've caught plenty of muskies in sunny conditions on topwater lures, okay? But I'm just saying your quintessential, it's getting kind of top ratery type thing. When the cloud cover rolls in and you're feeling that humidity kick up, yeah, that's what you want, one of these in your box, okay? A topwater is essential, and this is what we call a run and gun lure. So as we go here, we're going to talk about you know, your search lures, okay? So these are your search lures, your top water. Okay, blades, okay? at least have a blade in the lineup. You're going to have multiple different versions of blades, okay? This is the 700 Booker tail here. Again, this is like, this is your meat and potatoes. This is your starter here in the JBO lineup, the 700. This is a tinsel, okay? They come in various different models, okay? You've got the actual buck hair, you've got tin bucks, you've got actual traditional bucktail or squirrel hair, and then you've got the tinsel lineup, which has become really popular with myself as well. You gotta have a blade, guys. Blades are, I think probably, and again, I was talking to my good friend Jim Sarek not too long ago, and we talked about what's the #1 producer of muskies on our boats. Whether it's Musky Hunter television show or it's my Musky Mastery YouTube show, it would be blades, guys. You've seen these, you know, and again, if you're getting into this sport, you're going to need a variety of different blades. You're going to need, you know, the 500 Booker tail, the 700, the twin blades, the twin 800. You got twin 10s. You know, you have to have a wide assortment of blades, and blades, again, I think I mentioned this just now, but bucktails catch more muskies than any other lure. They're easy to throw. They're absolutely fantastic for triggering muskies to bite in the figure 8. You have to have a blade in your lineup, okay? Blades are just super critical. Okay, so these are your search baits. I covered topwater, and even within that search bait category, I might put our good old friend, the Walk the Dog, the Walkin' Raider here with our new duck color pattern here. It's pretty sharp hooks here. You know, Walk the Dog style lures are also, I would say, in that, not bleeding too bad. You get used to this if you handle musky lures all the time. Super glue becomes your best friend, right? I would say within that top water, you know, we should just point out that you've got the Walk the Dog, because that's also a really good, you know, search lure in a lot of just various conditions to pull fish out that, you know, maybe have seen the top raiders and they've seen the 700s, and the old Walk the Dog is going to pull them out of cover when they're not in a great mood, okay, when they're not real aggressive, okay? So those are your search lures that I'm going to cover today. And now let's go kind of the finesse route, okay? And when you're looking at the finesse stuff and you're looking at slower moving lures, we'll call them, you know, strike triggering lures, okay? Now, of course, all of these can be fished fast, so it's kind of funny when I say we've got certain lures that are, but these are going to be your minnow baits, your gliders, so your gliders and your minnow baits. And I'm going to tell you here, you know, if you're looking to just pick up a few things, you know, we talked about top raider, we talked about the 700 Booker tail, go out and get yourself a good minnow bait. Of course, you've seen both of these. Wow, are these hooks sharp? I got to talk to Ken Robinson. Maybe they're too sharp. Jeez. I mean, these two lures here, guys, you've got, you know, your Grape Flame, your 7-inch. You've got your Wonderbread 5 here. Again, I'm showing you some new colors, having some fun here, but get yourself a good minnow bait. In fact, both of these sizes are fantastic. I'll just give a quick blurb on this. Why would you use the 7-inch minnow bait here, okay? Buoyancy, okay? This lure is more buoyant than the 5. It's bigger, it has more air in there, it has a larger cavity here, okay? Buoyancy. When would you use the 5? When the bite gets harder. Downsize, 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 right? So, but you have to have a good minnow bait. When I'm going after muskies that have followed the top raider and they followed the Booker Tail 700 or the Twin 800, go back and throw the shallow raider on those fish at a moon phase. Go back and go after those fish at sunrise or sunset or whatever it is, if you've got a wind change. These are your strike triggers. You have to have strike triggers. Why are these your strike triggers? Why is your glide raider a strike trigger? Because you can keep these lures in place, you can keep them in the strike zone for a long period of time. That's why, okay? You know, think about this real quick from a simple perspective, okay? This lure is coming in hot. Whether you are slow rolling it or you're cranking it, it's still moving fast, okay? It's still moving fast. You can straight crank this lure, okay? The shallow rate or the baby shallow, you can straight crank it, but that's not the point, right? Well, it is, it can be. Don't get mad at me for saying that, but I like to utilize it as the strike triggering lure. This is a lure that can get muskies that are picky, get them to eat, okay? And there's a lot of different videos on my channel that highlight that, but that's just something important. So a couple basic lures, and then a couple more that I'm gonna show you. You need your blades, a basic blade, a basic topwater, a minnow bait, and then of course, I think we'd be crazy to say, you know, not include something like this. You need a safety pin style spinnerbait. Of course, one of my best lures during the 2024 season, which arguably for myself, I would say it was you know, I had a more challenging bite on my hands on the waters I was fishing. Did we catch them? Oh yeah, we got them, and we got them, a lot of them, on spinnerbaits, because these fish, the way we had an early ice out, and we had a lot of sunlight and a lot of photosynthesis taking place, and we had a lot of vegetation growing early, and it not only did it start early, but it went all the way through, and it got thick early. You weren't gonna get, even, this sounds crazy, you're not, in a lot of these spots, you're not even getting the old top rater. You're not getting the top rater through. You're definitely not getting the 700 through there, believe me. What are you going to get through there? You're going to get the old slot master through, okay? And so, you know, again, I don't know what category I'm going to throw that into. This is going to be the getting down and dirty category. This is going to be the we're just going to call this the demolition crew over here. You know, demolition. You got to have a spinnerbait, okay? You got to have something that you can throw. You know, one of my better patterns that I really leaned on heavily last spring when the bite was tough and the weather was really cold all June up in the North Country. Slot master fishing in fact, just like this, single hook slot master fishing in super thick reeds, bulrush. You had to have something like this. You're not getting much anything else in there, okay? You have to have your demolition crew that goes into the conditions and roots them out, okay? You have to have this, okay? Lastly, because we're talking about demolition, strike triggering, your finesse lures, your search lures, you also can have, and there's a lot, and this is actually kind of funny, but I'm just gonna, funny because all of these lures can be castback lures. We'll talk in more detail on this program about castback lures. But again, I just picked a number of lures you've already seen a bunch of times here. Oh, and there's one other lure. Oh my gosh, how could I forget that one? But your castbacks, I'll just throw in the little JB Rattler here. You know, something small. It's a great castback lure. In fact, on a lot of our Canadian trips up in Lake of the Woods, it was like we would get, you know, I'll leave it at this. It'd get very competitive with the JB Rattler because everybody wanted to throw this when a muskie would follow in and dart off. Everybody wanted to throw the JB Rattler. You can have a good castback. They can all be castbacks. And then I will leave you with one other thing here, because your minnow baits here. These are shallow running crankbaits. I can't believe I forgot this, because I caught my first muskie on the depth rater, the baby depth rater. You got to have deep divers, okay? You have to have a deep diver, okay? At least one, okay? I caught my very first muskie. I mean, this brings me back. This lure here, I know my lighting isn't amazing here. I'm gonna fix the vlog studio up, don't worry. There's the baby depth rater, okay? Of course, you know, this is the 6-inch baby depth rater. We've got the 8-inch baby depth, the 8-inch regular DR and the jointed DR. You've seen these on my channel, and you've got the Magnum shallow rater, but you have to have a deep diver in the mix. So I would say here, how many lures do I have down here? You know, so here's your depth rater, your walking rater, your glide rater. So that's same body, different weighting. Your top rater. Is this a good idea to hold all these in one hand? No. Your minnow baits, okay? You're gonna have your shallow raters, your blades, I mean, how many lures do I have here? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 lures here. So I guess let me put this one way. With 1 musky rod and maybe 8 to 10 lures, or if you really want to kick things off, 3 musky rods and 10 lures, you're set. And that's going to allow you to do a lot of great musky angling, okay? So there you have it, guys. We've essentially, talked about what makes muskies the fish at 10,000 casts. Why do we love musky fishing? We've talked about the basic types of gear. And again, we're going to really build on this. Maybe we'll even do more than 2 videos a month. We'll see. Maybe we'll do 3 a month. See how much you guys like them. But what you're going to see in coming videos is the whys. We're talking about now today the basics of what do you need, okay? But as we grow this now, we're going to start talking about, well, where would you use it? Why would you use it? We've kind of talked about a little bit of the why here today, okay? Why? Because you're searching here. Why? Because you're strike triggering. Why? Because you're going into difficult types of cover. Why? Because you've got to get down to deeper depth where fish are holding on rock piles or fish cribs. These are all tools. Okay, all of these lures are tools, and that's why you've got them. Okay, the last thing I said I was going to talk about tonight, okay, or today in this video, okay, just real basic, okay. And then we're going to leave some of this stuff for our next video, okay? It's good stuff. I could talk about this all night, but I know my wife, Stephanie, is out in the kitchen, probably waiting for me to finish up this vlog so we can make some dinner together. So the last thing I was going to talk about, just briefly, is electronics, okay? And, in this category, okay, I'm going to just say this, and this is something my friend Joe talks about a lot. You have to remember that electronics are super important in the sport of musky fishing, okay? But what is maybe even more important, we would call this hunting instincts. Okay? Hunting instincts is using your eyes, your ears, your nose, your memories, your reflection time to guide you and make those what we would call kind of innate, skilled decisions on the water. Now that comes with time. Another good old book, Bill Gardner's Time on the Water. Musky instincts come with time. They're even more valuable than this right here. Are electronics valuable? Of course they are. Yes, they are. They're very valuable. But don't forget, you can keep your head, and this isn't a knock on, I'll throw 360 in because I have 360 now. Don't get your head stuck in a sonar unit watching forward-facing sonar all day long and not even looking at the bigger picture around you. There's more going on than a beam shooting out and identifying fish. Look, I know this is a tool we have now, and I'm not knocking it, okay? I'm just saying, don't forget this. We'll talk more about this in this program, okay? But electronics, some basic stuff that's out there right now, okay? Most of you have heard of side imaging, okay? Side imaging and down imaging. These are probably the two most basic modern day sonar technology that, oh gosh, let me see, it's 2024 now. Even 10 years ago, side imaging was on the market and being utilized, but not nearly to the extent it is today. Side imaging and down imaging are really important in the world of musky fishing now from two perspectives. One is just understanding the structure that you're fishing. They allow you to gain a lot of information about the terrain and the different types of structures you're fishing. It can relay a lot of information and provide you a really cool mental picture that the 2D sonar doesn't always show you as well, especially if you're not used to reading 2D sonar. you're going to find that the SI and DI really paint a really cool image, a really real-world image. Actually, like literally looks, it's exactly what it is down there. It paints a real-world picture of what's happening down there, okay? So you can really see it with your own eyes. And of course, with side imaging and down imaging, you can see muskies. You can see them follow. You can see the actual fish, and you can see the shadow, okay? If you are looking to invest, I know, of course, most of you know that I run Humminbird products on my boat right now. Humminbird will likely have yet again another sale. I think they might be running some now, but for sure in the spring on helixes. Pick up side imaging or down imaging if you can. It will definitely help you, and we will throw in some sophisticated electronics talk at some point in this program. But these are a couple of things that I think you should probably look into. Now, next level, do you need this other stuff? Absolutely not. You don't. In fact, do you need this? No. Is it very helpful? Yes. I've been using 360 imaging, which is essentially a glorified 360 degrees of side imaging. It's cool. It's different. I like it. It's useful to me. It's very interesting stuff, very interesting. But 360 is something you may want to look into. And of course, you've got FFS, forward-facing sonar. There are a gazillion companies. Garmin and Humminbird really are big-time, competitors in this market for all of these things, all of these different electronics. But just wanted to throw that out there. Your side imaging and down imaging probably are the basic ones that if you're getting into the sport, this is probably something you may want to take a look at. And you're lucky because right now the price of these is, it's really dropping with things like forward-facing. So even 360 is old. It's old now, okay? But forward-facing sonar is becoming the new rage, and it's actually becoming quite controversial. I'm not getting into that. I just wanted to point out a couple things with regard to electronics that you may want to think about with our Welcome to the World of Musky Fishing and the tools of the trade here. So that's it, folks. That is the first installment of Mastering Muskies from Beginner to Expert. If you are an expert or you're experienced and you still listen to a lot of this and you enjoyed it, thank you. If you're a beginner and you're just getting into musky fishing, or you're trying to sharpen up on your skills and just kind of, you're going to start this program with me from day one, I hope you enjoyed this. I certainly enjoyed showing you some of this information today. Yes, it is very basic, but it's also good. You have to start somewhere. And as an educator, I always say this: if you want to get to the very top, you have to build a strong foundation. And that is what we're doing today. And in the next episode as well, they're going to be more basic episodes. And by, I would say, episode 3 of our vlog series, we're gonna dive in. Actually, probably in vlog 2, we're gonna start to dive in a little bit. But I wanted to provide a little bit of a foundation for you, a couple things to look into to get you started here. So with that said, I cannot thank you enough for watching this. Please, 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 I'm begging you, please, but I know you'll do this. Leave some comments down below. Ask some questions regarding some of the things I've talked about. I know I missed a few things here. Even to keep this within an hour, this is as good as I can do, at least right now. And I could continue talking, although Stephanie probably wants me to come cook up some dinner here and move on with the evening. But I love this stuff, and I hope that you guys love this. I hope this is a great place to start as you study with me this winter. So I like to say this: I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, thanks for watching.